Hello, everyone. Thank you for spending your Sunday with us watching that wonderful movie. How amazing was that? We have two very special guests here today. You met one of them earlier. She is the Academy Award-winning filmmaker behind all of your favorite movies: Virgin Suicides, Lost in Translation, Marie Antoinette, On the Rocks, Priscilla, and later this year, her new film, a documentary about her best friend, Marc Jacobs, will be released by A24 as well, called Marked by Sofia. And yeah, cheer. And our second guest is the two-time Academy Award-winning filmmaker, actor, behind so many other of your favorite movies, including the one we just watched tonight, or today. Taxi Driver, The Accused, The Silence of the Lambs, Nell, Contact, my personal favorite, Panic Room. She just won an Emmy for True Detective, and she has a new film that just premiered at Toronto, where she speaks entirely in French, because she can do everything. So please give a warm round of applause to Sofia Coppola and Jodie Foster.
Thank you, Keaton. Thank you. I think that's the first time I saw Foxes on a big screen, which was really thrilling. It looks so beautiful. I wiping my tears.
Jodie, when is the last time you had seen the film?
1980, maybe?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't watch my movies after the fact. I think I never want to see them again. Yeah, probably there's so much that I'd forgotten. I mean, it does feel like a home movie for me. It feels like it's a home movie, so I'm a little embarrassed. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, while you were watching it, were just kind of like memories surging through your head? Were you like nitpicking your performance? Like how was that experience for you, like to watch it again?
I feel a little embarrassed by my performance.
You're so good in it.
I mean,
It's so good in it.
She's so good in it.
But yeah, a lot of memories about the 70s in LA. You know, anybody who's from LA, I know there are a few people here that are from LA. There is a very particular feeling to it, which this diffusion, you know, all this fog that they pumped in, the British DP pumped in, kind of gives you that feeling of you're always looking through fog with the long lenses, and that really feels like my childhood to me. On all those places also on Hollywood Boulevard where we filmed that are no longer there, or at least have been covered over with other things. Yeah, it does feel like a lost place that doesn't exist anymore.
I love that it's such a time capsule of
Yeah.
LA gone. And the first thing I asked Jodie when we were walking the stage was, were they pumping smoke the whole time? Because it looked so diffused and so late 70s.
Yeah, it was the late 70s, and it was, you know, sort of all the rage. I was just telling you that Ridley Scott's The Duelist had come out just before this movie, and he was like this incredible find, this young British director, and he came from commercials. And so everybody in Hollywood said, like, what other British directors that come from commercials can we find? And they found Adrian Lyne. This was his first film. And they were all, you know, these kind of, it's not a pejorative thing, but these shooter directors who were not writer directors, but that could come in and make a movie just, you know, have so much ambiance and so much feeling and look beautiful.
Yeah, it had so much style. But I was wondering if you guys improvised a lot, because the scenes were just like sitting around breakfast and stuff feel real, and it feels authentic to teenage girls.
Yeah,
Was it scripted mostly?
Some of it's scripted, most of it's scripted. I sort of, you know, because I do bring, you know, a now sensibility, and it is hard for me to look back. I'm sure it's the same thing with you guys when you listen to yourself on recordings or you see yourself in home movies and you're just embarrassed. You know, I sort of wish it was more improvisational, because I remember being uncomfortable about it, because when you're 16 years old, you're uncomfortable about everything you do. And I remember feeling like, I don't know about this movie. I felt like it had two different styles. One style that was sort of improvisational and found and discovered and felt, you know, long lensy and felt real, and then another side which was too broad for me. So, Yeah, it's kind of a weird combo of the two, and I'm not sure if we were to do it today, I think we'd probably choose one or the other.
When you say too broad, are there specific scenes you're thinking of, or like plot beats that like you think maybe go?
I think it's not in the shooting. It's really, and it's not in the writing, because the writing has a really authentic, real feeling to it. But I think it was just maybe just some of the acting, and the thing is he was English, and he really hadn't spent any time in America, so he didn't really kind of I think he didn't 100% understand our, our language in a lot of ways, and he was just loved it all. I think the thing that he thrilled to the most was all of the shots of the extras, and you'll notice there's just like all this ambient stuff of like, oh, fantastic, it's the party scene. Now we can, do a couple of takes on the actors and then shoot all the extras. He liked all that, and it does give the feeling a really authentic feeling for the film, I think.
Yeah, I loved all those details.
Yeah.
Of the characters along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what can you just tell us about, like, kind of like taking us back to like when you first did like sign up for the film? I mean, obviously, I think I looked. This was like the 14th film you'd made, and you were
Right.
still like a teenager, so you were kind of like an old pro by that point. But you had done Freaky Friday, Taxi Driver. Like you had Taxi Driver aside, you had kind of been doing some more like younger fare. And did you
Yep.
kind of view this as like a transitional film for you in terms of like, oh well.
What was I thinking?
Yeah, I'm curious how you
You know,
came to do this movie.
Because I also saw you hadn't made a film for 3 years, between
Really?
77 and 19. Yeah. Not to tell you
No,
about
I
your own
think I
life,
had.
but
I think I had. Maybe they just hadn't come out. I think maybe they all came out at one different
Right.
time. I think I had. My mom was a huge part of my life, right? She was my manager, and she was the movie buff, and she was the one who picked everything and read all the scripts. And it really wasn't until I turned a certain age where I really started kind of taking charge a bit more of what I did and what I didn't do. I mean, I felt close to this one because, as it was described, which we talked about before, as it was described to me, it was Little Women if Little Women had been plopped into the San Fernando Valley. So that was the whole idea behind it. And if you think about that, then it obviously starts making sense. You're like, oh yeah, well, there's one who's kind of the mother figure, and she's trying to keep them all together. But I think the second that Cherie Curry came on, then I was like, okay, now I get what this film is, and I guess I got more into it and more interested. Yeah, I'm not sure. In my early movies, I don't have a lot of memory of thinking a lot. I think it was just all a lot of instinct.
Were you friends with Scott Baio from Bugsy Malone?
We weren't really friends. Our parents were friends because they had spent all this time together in England doing Bugsy Malone. So. A bunch of the kids, the American kids, and there was only like actual American kids who lived in America. There was only like 3 or 4 American kids. They were all English. So the American kids all kind of continued to know each other. The parents knew each other. So it was good. Yeah, it was good connecting up with Scott before his voice changed and before he got tall. Yes, I have all those fond memories of him, on the skateboard and flocking the Christmas trees, which is such an LA thing, that you're sitting there in the smog and it's 80 degrees out and you're getting ready for Christmas and everybody's, blowing the flocking onto the Christmas trees.
And were you friends with the other girls? You guys were all really that age. And
No,
did you
we were
hang
not
out?
that age.
Oh, no?
I was the only one that was
You were
that
the only
age.
real teenager?
Well,
Yeah, nobody was a real
Yeah.
teenager besides me because they didn't want to. They didn't want to hire teenagers because, as we know, they also come with the welfare board, and then you can't work them as many hours. Cherie was the closest to me, and I think she was probably 19, maybe she was 20. And
Had she been in the Runaways for a few years?
yeah, she'd been in the Runaways.
this was her
and
acting debut, I believe.
This was her acting debut, so nobody was really sure about her. But my God, she was magnificent. I mean, she's so true to the period, and that was Cherie. That was her hair. That was her clothes. And for us at the time, we were like, wow, she's really edgy. Of course, they're all in like funny clothes and all that. But she used to knit. And she was always on time.
Really?
And she's a big knitter. She was a big knitter.
Oh my God.
And she was just a really good girl, just a total sweetheart.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Isn't that surprising?
Well, I mean, I read a little bit of her memoir, and there was a great section where
Yeah.
she's like speaks so lovingly of you and says you were like the best. But she said your mother was not a big fan of her.
Oh, wasn't he? Oh, yeah, because my mom was judgy.
Yeah.
My mom was super judgy, and she ruled the house. She was pretty strict.
She didn't want you being like friends with one of the runaways.
No, probably not. No, probably not. And I had 3 older brothers and sisters. In fact, my brother Buddy there's a boy with long hair, and he's smoking a joint and talking about a girl who he loves. That's my brother Buddy. So I think we were trying to get him his health insurance because he was a child actor, and he'd been in a lot of different TV series, and my mom was trying to get him to take things seriously, but he just kept skipping school and surfing, and yeah.
I also read, you mentioned The Little Woman of it all,
Yeah.
where it was kind of conceived as like Louisa May Alcott in the Valley. But I did also read that originally the idea for the script was to be centered around an all-female rock group. Does that ring any bells?
what?
An all-female rock band?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay,
wow,
that sounds
sorry.
like a good idea. Let's make that movie.
Like, where did it come from in the first place? Who was the writer? Or do you know anything about
His name?
Yeah.
who are
Jerry
these guys
Ayers.
that were thinking
Yeah.
of doing the women set in the valley in the first place?
Yeah, I think he was a producer, I read.
He was a producer, but he also wrote, right? I think he wrote The Last Detail.
He
which
produced
is-
it, but this
Oh,
was his
he
first
didn't write
screen.
it?
Yeah, I think he produced it, and this was his first screenplay.
You're right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah, that is right. Okay. I feel like he had a daughter, even though he's a gay man who had a daughter, and I believe, oh my gosh, I could be getting this wrong. Isn't that terrible?
You may have just outed
but
someone.
Yeah.
Kidding.
And I loved him. He was brilliant. He was smart. He was, a feminist. What a great writer for this movie. And I think the screenplay really holds up. I think it's a really good screenplay.
Yeah, and it kind of. Oh, sorry. Go on, Sophia. You had a question?
No, it just, in the 90s, my friends and I were obsessed with this movie, and we got the script, and we did a table reading for fun, and Ione Skye played you in our Fox's table reading. But
Wait, Ione Skye played Jodie?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
That's
we just did it for
awesome.
fun, so I don't know how we tracked on the script, but it is a really good script, and I think the movie is so unique and such a classic teen movie.
Wait, I want to talk about a little more about this table read.
Okay, yeah, me too.
I don't remember.
Is that like just a thing you would do with your friends in the 90s? Like script readings?
No, I think that was our only one. But
Oh, wow,
we would just
okay.
get enthusiastic when we found the script, and we probably got like a VHS of the movie because I didn't see it when it came out. I saw it in the 90s in my 20s. And
Do you remember who you played in the table read?
I don't remember. I hope Sherry Curry. No, I don't remember. I don't remember. But we were really into Foxes, and it's fun to revisit.
Well, yeah, and
To some of this, when you say that it was originally about an all-girl band, that makes a lot of sense. So Casablanca Records, it's a bunch of famous people that were involved with that. I feel like David Putnam, who was a big fixture in, I think he ended up being a studio head. He ended up running Fox, maybe. British producer. So they were sort of all involved in this, and they were all in the music business. So that makes sense.
Is Angel a real band?
Yes, yes.
I love
and on the label. So, and then, of course, at that time, no longer the case, but at that time, the records that came out from movies were important because they could make a lot of money and, they would sell on their own. And so record companies were very invested in what would be the music from the film. And you have on the radio, of course, which only plays about 140 times.
I can't believe how many times. So it was Marauder was on Casablanca Records, probably?
Yeah, Giorgio Moroder was he was the composer, wasn't he?
Yeah, but
How did that happen?
I can't believe how many times they play
Yeah,
on the radio.
it's
but
like they
I
ran
still
out
love
of money. They ran out of money for anything else, and then they just kept sticking it in there. Yeah.
But it works every time. And I love that the Randy Quaid character's art director for albums, and you see all the artwork. So
Right.
maybe they're plugging some other Casablanca.
Yeah, and I think that also, the look of the movie, I think he was inspired by that idea of, what did the record albums look like in those days, and that generation too. Even the when you look back at Sally Kellerman's character, it's like she was edgy for her time, and her time is sort of Laurel Canyon and Tapestry and Carole King and all of that. So anyway, it's just a memory lane.
Yeah, and that's always like I find when I watch like movies I loved when I was a teenager, like
Yeah.
as I grow up, I always get kind of shocked how much I start to like empathize with the parents.
Yes.
Like when I rewatch it,
Yes.
because yeah, you're watching this and it's just like Cherie Curie, Jodie Foster, but now I'm 30 years old and I'm like, oh, the mothers,
Yeah.
they're trying so hard.
That scene with the mother talking about the scotch and her apron, it's so painful.
Yeah,
But
and
I
Lois
think-
Smith, who is a fantastic
Incredible.
actress, is the first time I've ever. I was like, I kept saying to people, I'm like, I think I made a movie with Lois Smith, but I couldn't remember what it was. I just couldn't remember what it was, but I was like, I know her face, and I feel like I made a movie with her, and now I remember what it is.
I love that scene, and I love how serious everything is taken in this movie, which, just how intense she is about it, and then I always remember the Sally Kellerman line about "I hate my hips." I remember seeing that when I was a kid. I mean, but it's so funny, and of course I was inspired. I mean, I think it was ingrained in my head, just all the girls lying around in their underwear and walking around, and all the art direction I think is incredible. It felt so real.
These art directors, so he brought everybody from England that he could, and and the April Ferry, very famous costume designer, she was the prop man on this movie. And she went on to do lots of huge films. She did Maverick with me, but lots of huge movies and Oscar nominations and all of that. But he reuses a lot of people that he used in the films going forward. So Shoot the Moon or... did he do Fatal Attraction? Was he the Fatal Attraction director? Fatal Attraction, all those films.
That's the thing. I mean, like, it is kind of crazy that Adrian Lyne directed this because he's kind of now known as like the king of the erotic thriller.
Yes.
Between like Fatal Attraction and Decent Proposal and Faithful.
Yeah,
and this was his very
right.
first film. But to your point, he was kind of a hired gun.
Yes.
But he still managed to kind of like inject his like personal sense of style on it. Like
Yeah.
even just that shot of like Scott Baio like skateboarding away while like the motorcycles are coming towards the
Right.
camera is like so sick.
Yeah, lots of backlighting and
Yeah.
all that stuff that he's known for. He came with his family. I loved his family, loved his wife, and occasionally would run into her and his daughter. But he was fascinated by young girls. And
it didn't have a
it didn't have a pervy way
quality.
about it.
No,
but he
it felt.
and he didn't either. To me, he was just like a big. Because he had that long hair like everybody had in those days too, but he was kind of like a big puppy. And always very excited about the scenes between the girls and throwing lines at them and loved kind of...
on the set.
Yeah, totally. So, but he, he did Lolita too. So if you remember those little heart glasses too, I was like, oh, I didn't remember that the Lolita heart glasses came from this movie too.
I didn't put that together.
And like Sophia, you kind of asked this, but also just like it feeling so authentic is kind of surprising when you do just look at it being
That
sort of like
Adrian Lyne directed it.
well, yeah, and also not even just Adrian Lyne, but it kind of has like an all-male team. Like Gerald Ayres was the writer,
Yep.
David Putnam was the producer. But to Sophia's point earlier, like I am curious, like did they give you a lot of space to like not just improv, but maybe like be like, hey, actually, like I don't think a 16-year-old girl would say this. Like I think we should do this.
They were very good that way. But there were no women then. So it's,
They didn't
there's
exist,
a reason
yeah.
why they're all men. I mean, because there were no women. I mean, as I just said, April Ferry was the prop master, but it was only because her husband was a prop master, and he, for whatever reason, couldn't do it or whatever, and kind of like handed the job to her. There really was no such thing as women in the film business. Certainly not as technicians. Occasionally here and there that would change, but from this time on. But I don't remember any women on film sets.
Yeah. And I mean, in general too, I mean, like, even just in doing research for this, like, when you look at like sort of like the state of like teen films in the late 70s, like,
Yes.
I mean, this film already kind of feels like a rarity now, but like, especially in 1980, you're kind of coming off of like American Graffiti, Animal House. It's like right before Porky's, but it's like
Right.
kind of that era of like the very like raunchy, like male-centered like teen comedy. So yeah, in that regard, I mean, did this kind of feel like a rare like project at the time even?
Yeah, it did. I mean, I think it was one of those, especially since it has that. I mean, I think what's lovely about it is that it doesn't feel teeny.
Yeah.
They say, they say curse words, and everybody's parents are divorced, and they are talking about drugs and all the things that weren't being talked about at the time. And then when you think about it, it's probably about 3 years later where you have Pretty in Pink. You've got all of 16 Candles. You've got all those teen movies.
So Fast Times is right after this because
Yeah.
Damone, I recognized that actor.
Wait, did you recognize?
Damone, the guy who plays your boyfriend, he's a ticket scalper in Fast
That's
Times.
right. That's right. And
Who's
his
in Fast Times?
brother, is his brother or his father was a big actor too, and all these like he's in like a bunch of Scorsese movies and stuff. And I remember because he was very New Yorky, and he was like very mumbly and New Yorky. And
totally.
he just did not want to be in this kind of movie. Yeah. And I didn't blame him. I didn't blame him. He came in for a gig to have like 10 lines or something in this movie, and I could tell how embarrassed he was because he was a real actor.
Yeah, but that totally. That's what's so great about him because everyone's so serious and doing their thing.
Yeah.
Did anyone spot the blonde future Oscar winner who has a cameo in the party scene?
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember that day because Laura Dern was on set for my birthday, 16th birthday, which was the day we shot all the party stuff. And I knew Laura from when I was 9. She was probably younger because her mom did Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore with me. And we were all in Arizona together in Tucson in like one of those hotels that had a pool in the middle. And all the rooms were on the side. So it was like me, Alfred Lutter, and Laura Dern, and Ellen Burstyn's son would just be jumping in the pool together all day because it was so hot.
Oh, love.
So that's my memory of Laura Dern.
Yeah, I think I read that she auditioned for one of the main 4 girls.
Yeah. She was just too young though.
She was
was
too
much
young.
younger.
Yeah, she was too young, and I think Adrian Lyne, he told a story where he told Laura that they were going in another direction, and she cried so hard that they gave her that like tiny role in the movie, which is very sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Sophia, this was the first film that you chose for your Sundays with Sophia series. So like, I mean, what is it about this film that just like struck you in such a way whenever you first encountered it in the 90s?
It's just such a teen classic. I guess I've never saw a movie like that like took this teenage group of friends and took it seriously. And I love how sophisticated they are, like how you feel at that age. I love the dinner party scene and is it Deirdre with the long cigarette holder? And and you talking about getting a loft in New York. I felt I just related to that, and I had never seen anything like that. And it's just I don't know how we must have seen it at a revival house or VHS.
Or VHS.
Yeah. I really don't think I saw it ever big before, but I just think it's such a classic, and it's not very known. So it's fun to have these screenings to get to watch movies together that maybe everyone hasn't seen. And it's right up there. I feel like there was like Over the Edge, Matt Dillon, and this movie and Fast Times that the kids were cool, and just like that the way they showed the teacher in health class or the relationship between the moms and the daughters. It just felt like you didn't see that in movies very often.
Yeah, that felt real, and at the time we felt like we weren't being represented by anybody, that there really wasn't anybody speaking that language. I mean, for me, just growing up in LA, to make a movie about LA where every kid's mom and dad were divorced and you were shuttling back and forth between homes, and you get your car. At 15 and a half you can drive, but at 16, you'll get the family car or something. And you always wanted to get that cool car. That car, by the way, which was a stick shift pickup truck. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to drive this?
You guys were being towed in the scenes when you're talking in the car, right?
Probably the scenes where we were talking, but not the scenes where we're driving necessarily.
So you had to learn how to drive.
Yeah, so I had to learn how to drive a stick shift on that big giant car. But yeah, it really felt like my city, I think, and then the kids that inhabited that city.
Yeah, it's a very underrated LA movie in that sense. Like, you can tell it was shot all on location all over the city. And to your point, just like there's so much texture in the way, like, you can tell Adrian Lyne just kind of like set the camera on like Hollywood Boulevard and kind of just like shot all these assorted weirdos that kind of respectfully that were like walking down the street.
Yeah, and all of those landmarks that we know about Los Angeles, like Mulholland, going up on Mulholland, which is what you would do. You go up on Mulholland, and then the cops would catch you, and then you're, trying to figure out how to skateboard down Mulholland. And there's a church in it where they get married at the end. There's a place called the Little Brown Church that's is it on Coldwater Canyon or Whitsett or one of those that's just like, it's been there forever. And there's probably enough room for, I don't know, maybe 60 people max. And it's on this giant thoroughfare, which is, I think it's Coldwater Canyon. And I keep saying, I can't believe that the Little Brown Church still exists. And of course, that's where that scene is.
It's still there?
Yeah, it's still there.
I didn't know about that.
Sophia, I'm curious, especially that opening scene, where the camera is sort of draping over the girls and all the sort of ephemera of their bedroom, the Arby's containers and the rollers. I was kind of watching it thinking this really does feel very Virgin Suicides.
Yes, I think it was ingrained in my head.
Yeah.
I don't think I consciously was referencing it, but it definitely was ingrained in my head, and I've definitely done that shot. And and it feels real to me, just having my house full of teenagers, just piles of kids lounging around. But no, that definitely looks, when I was watching it, I thought there's shots that definitely looks like I've copied.
We were
And
talking.
Twin Ring has stuff from this movie too, I think. There's the kids all in piles of beds and then running on Mulholland and stuff. So I think this movie definitely was ingrained in my head.
We were talking about Ed Lachman, who is a very famous director of photography. He's directed amazing movies and an extraordinary technician, really somebody that knows everything about filmmaking. And I remember seeing Virgin Suicides when it came out, and Ed was your DP, and I thought, God, that movie looks amazing, but it doesn't look like anything Ed's ever done before. And I thought, wow, this director really guided his hand in so many ways, because it's not anything that I'd ever seen Ed really do before.
That's so cool. He helped me so much, but that's so nice of you to say that. That's so cool. And he really listened to me and helped me find my way. But I'm sure I had foxes in my head.
In general, when just kind of watching the film again, I'm curious, what were some core memories that kind of came rushing back?
Well, when you have memories on movie sets, it's usually I had frostbite in my toes because I had these. Everybody wore those platforms called candies, and they were little. Do you guys? Anybody here old enough to remember that? They were these platform shoes, but they were open-toed. And it was winter in LA, and we always think, oh, winter in LA, it's nice and warm, but it's not warm at night. And I got frostbite, and which you have for the rest of your life. So I sort of, that's something I remember. Freezing in that outfit. Yeah.
What about that party scene? Because I don't know. It's I imagine obviously in anything of that scale, there's a lot of blocking and planning, but it feels so authentically chaotic. It really does feel like Adrian Lyne was just sort of chasing you all through the room, trying to keep up with the chaos.
Well, he really understood. Adrian really understood. He'd done so many commercials, and he really understood the power of a long lens and small spaces. And cutting off heads and feet of people. The kind of feeling that gets to allow the audience inside the experience. I remember shooting that scene. We were probably there for a week because they shot all this stuff between Marilyn and Randy, and it was my 16th birthday, and it was that party scene, and I got a car. So that's what I remember.
Wait, I'm sorry. They shot the scene on your 16th birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, on my 16th birthday, and they had a cake and everything, and then outside was my car, my first car.
Oh, was that a surprise?
Yeah, it was. Well, I kind of knew what car I was getting because I had, of course,
What was it?
It was a Jeep, and it had a golden eagle painted on the side. They were called Golden Eagles. You can't remember that, but you must know. You might know the car. So they were. That was a pretty cool car to have for a 16-year-old. It was a terrible car, by the way. Don't ever buy one on the internet or anything. It was a terrible car.
Terrible, unsafe, or
Terrible, it just kept breaking down. It was not meant really for. It had holes in the bottom, the way Jeeps do. So every time it rained in LA, it'd just be the whole car would be wet.
Yeah, and as someone who grew up watching the film, who is now a mother of two girls who are kind of similar in age to the characters in the film, I'm curious, Sophia, how did watching it now sort of hit you differently than when you were in your 20s?
I think I still regress back to being with the girls, but no, I think the fight scenes are really authentic, especially the one of you and Sally Kellerman, and it just reminds me things not to do as
Right.
no, but I see it. Yeah, I see it from both sides. But I feel like the relationships with the parents, I can feel the stress of the moms, and hope I don't say some of those things. But I thought it was authentic, and showing and I like that it's from the kid's point of view, because I always appreciate when the kid's point of view is done in a respectful way. But I thought it felt authentic.
Yeah, and unusual, this idea of a kid who's kind of raising her mom in a way, and the fight between them is about who is responsible, who's the responsible one. And that I really related to in the script. I remember reading the script and thinking like, oh, that's kind of something I'm going through, because I had a single mom, and I was the youngest in my family, and my brothers and sisters were all bad, very busy, doing all sorts of crazy things, and it was just me and mom back home, kind of tisking about those crazy older kids.
And you seemed like a responsible kid,
yes,
because you were working.
I was.
And you were the valedictorian at
I
school, right?
was.
And she speaks French. And she speaks French.
Big French. But my mom was always late. And as you know, movie sets, sometimes you have to be at work at 5 a.m, or you have to be on time. And she was always late, which was really a problem for me. And, I'd sit in the car, and she'd say, go to the car. And so I'd sit in the car and wait for her to come downstairs, and she just wouldn't come downstairs. And for some reason, she really got a case of the lates on this movie. She was just late all the time. So they changed my calls. They would create a call sheet just for me that had a different time on it, because my mom was so late, and I was just completely embarrassed and angry at her. I was just angry at her the whole movie. That's what I remember.
So glad I asked.
Were you the only one with a mom chaperone? Because the other kids were older?
All the other, everybody was older. And Marilyn Kagan, who has the glasses and who's is kind of the one with Randy Quaid, she went on to be a very famous therapist. She's got a PhD, and she had a show. She was like Dr. Phil or something, like a liberal Dr. Phil.
I was Googling her earlier, and there were so many videos of her on talk shows, and I was like, oh, she became a psychotherapist.
Yes. I don't know what happened to Candace. I have no idea. She was a bit older than the rest of us, and so you can see her trying to stretch a little bit to appear like she can still relate to the young kids.
Yeah, I do love when you mentioned earlier the scene where she's trying to seem mature for the boys, and her idea of maturity is being a 40s movie star.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I remember that day being like, oh, okay.
You telling that story, though, also about your mother and everything on set and just being very professional did remind me of another section in Cherie's memoir where she said during the party scene, at one point it did start getting really rowdy. And do you remember this?
No.
No. She said that everyone apparently did start getting really rowdy and yelling and causing chaos. And at one point you just kind of were like, hey, and snapped, clapped. And we're basically she said you turned into school teacher and was
First
very much
AD. First AD. I do turn into the first AD occasionally. Yes.
She said you whipped everyone back into shape immediately. And she was this little 16-year-old was very respectfully just hey, we got a job to do. Which
she's a pro.
Exactly.
I really liked her. I have to say, I really, really liked her and felt for her because she was nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, she'd never done anything like this, and she was really nervous, and she was a little shaky. And I suppose you wouldn't expect that from the Runaways, but Joan Jett was a bit like that too. She was also kind of just a good girl and kind of nervous.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm still shocked that Cherie Curry was knitting on set.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my biggest takeaway from this conversation. Well, because that's her real cherry tattoo on her shoulder too.
Yes,
from the Runaways. I mean, watching it now, it's do you think the film still has relevance for contemporary teenagers? Do you think it's still something that your daughters would get a lot out of?
I don't know. I have to ask them after this, but I think it's sweet the friendship, how they look after each other. That seems like that is enduring.
Yeah. Because there is a part of it, as much as I do love it, where in retrospect it does almost kind of feel like you're watching a cautionary tale, or that's maybe like the way Adrian is presenting it.
I don't know about cautionary. It felt like he wanted to be inside the experience. I think he had a lot of respect for each one of the girls in a way, and he felt like each one of them was sort of a part of him. I think that's the best way for a director to approach a project, and I feel like that's what he did. I had a friend of mine that did a TV show. I can't remember if it was on HBO. It was called Generation. I don't know if you guys saw that. And I remember watching it. It wasn't too long ago. And he wrote it with his daughter. And she was just about to go to college. She was in high school. I knew him because our kids were in preschool together. And I thought, wow, Generation is like this generation's Foxes in a way. And of course, the issues are different now. You know, the issues back then were, it was all about drugs, and it was all about the streets of LA and all of that. And for Generation, it was a lot about, you know, gender identity and sexuality and, you know, all of that stuff. Sexuality at the time, I mean, weirdly, I think people were just coming out of the late 60s and early 70s and was pretty accepted, you know. Everybody's talking about diaphragms and the pill and whatever it was. And that seemed very true at that time. And I don't know, it was all quite advanced then.
Yeah, it feels like a time capsule for that time. But then there's still things that are still relevant to it. Yeah.
I think our time is about up, but just to kind of wrap things up, as I mentioned in my intro, you both just had movies premiere at film festivals in the past few weeks.
Yes.
I am curious, can you just leave us on maybe something you saw at the festival that you really loved?
I didn't see anything, but
well.
already.
Is there any other movie you've seen recently that you really loved that you want to recommend to us?
I saw Kirsten Dunst's new movie, Roof Man, which is really fun. I loved it. Yeah, I can recommend that.
That's cool. Yeah, I was just at Telluride, which is my favorite festival ever, right? Because there's no premieres really. Well, there is, I guess, but there's no makeup, there's no outfits, there's no paparazzi, there's nothing like that. You just get to go see movies, and I actually got to see a lot of films. I was there with my film Vie Privée, a French movie that's just about to come out maybe in December in America. I saw a Paolo Sorrentino movie called La Grazia. That is, okay, so far my favorite movie of the year.
Okay.
So we can all look forward to that.
I want to see that and your new movie, and it's fun to be here at the Cherry Lane.
Yes, thank you so much to A24 and the Cherry Lane Theater